What do you say, everybody? With Kyle Henderson, I'm Mick Gillispie. Welcome to Bama Insider. And this is our Sunday night call-in show as we talk about the Crimson Tide of Alabama. Number 2 in the country, a win over New Mexico State. We're going to get into that. There were some injuries of significance in the game. We'll get into that as well. But like and subscribe, hit the bell as you hang out with us here on a Sunday night. We do this every Sunday night. And we're so amped up about talking Crimson Tide football. We're jumping on a little bit early tonight. Call-in line is set up for you at 205-850-0883. Alabama against Arkansas coming up on Sunday. We'll talk about that. Alabama and Auburn in 2 weeks. We can get into that. Alabama got a lot of help from other teams in the SEC, and now they're on the verge of playing Georgia in the SEC championship game thanks to losses by Auburn and Texas A&M. We'll get into that as well. What's up, Kyle?
What's up, man? I was been watching some NFL today, and it's like practice for these guys, or it used to be, in Tuscaloosa with Devontae Smith catching the pass over Patrick Surtain, and it's really incredible to see all these guys from Alabama continue to do work on Sunday. But of course, recapping Alabama's 59-3 victory over my beloved New Mexico State Aggies. There was a time where the Aggies led this game. It only lasted a minute, but it was the greatest moment in program history as the New Mexico State Aggies led Alabama 3-0 before allowing 59 consecutive points. Bryce Young looked fantastic, and I'm really eager to dive into not only talking about the running backs and kind of the key injuries, but look, I am with you inside the comment box 1,000,000%. And someone already pointed it out that Jalen Milroe, I think, honestly, if you really want to know my honest opinion, I honestly think that he could be the second best running back on this team today. Okay. And I know you got Trey Sanders right there. We're going to talk about these injuries and kind of the running back room, but look, there's a lot to dive into with the running back room. So stay tuned. We're going to dive into it. And then we want to take your calls. Mick's going to field those as we get into Alabama's next game, taking on Arkansas, which they opened up as a 22-point favorite. And we'll also talk about that here coming up.
Yeah, crazy the way that the spread works for Alabama. But they didn't struggle scoring points against New Mexico State. And you mentioned they were down 3-0, a 50-yard field goal, and then they came thundering back. 5 touchdowns, no INTs for Bryce Young. The defense looked great as well. But the bad news, Kyle, is more running back injuries, more injuries in general, but Roydell Williams getting hurt for Alabama, and Nick Saban alluding to the fact that he's going to be gone for a while really limits Alabama and that running back room.
Yeah, absolutely. And as everybody on Bama Insider knows, we are really high on Jace McClellan and what he added to that running back room. And I think you were one of the first ones to kind of point that out early in the season, that Jace McClellan, as you said, felt that he was the best running back. And then I started watching him more and more and kind of felt the same way. Now, look, Brian Robinson has certainly been the workhorse for this team, and he's going to have to even carry a heavier load going forward. But we started to see some really positive things from Roydell Williams out of Hueytown, local product who I was very impressed with. Has a really good running style, fast, really powerful, not the biggest back in the room, but certainly packs a punch. So him going down, and Saban didn't really say how long he's going to be out for. So let's kind of be patient and hold off on that. He did say sometime. So I would assume that means that sometime, I don't know. We can't really elaborate on sometime, right? Kamar Wheaton is the other running back in this room that we haven't even had a chance to see play this year because he was hurt during the preseason time. So you have 3 marquee running backs, really all consensus 5 stars across the board that play a pivotal role. And Brian Robinson is going to have to continue to do what he does. He's the bell cow. And then you're going to have to see Trey Sanders in an elevated role. If we can move to that next slide that I sent you, Mick, kind of looking at Alabama's running back room now that we've kind of moved on from, these injuries. And if you can zoom out, I think we have a good frame of those guys kind of now the running back room. So check this out, everyone. And I appreciate you guys being here. Definitely hit the thumbs up, like, subscribe. This is the current running back setup for the Crimson Tide. And it's crazy because you look at the two running backs on the bottom, they didn't even come here as running backs. They played running back in high school. And I guess you could say that for a lot of these guys, right? Everybody who didn't play quarterback or running back in, elementary, Pop Warner, high school, right? So it's not like it's completely out of the realm. But Christian Leary, we got to see him a little bit spot play along with Des Moines Kennedy.
Yeah, it's crazy to look at this list right here And I think you nailed it too. With Milroe is a guy that maybe you don't put him in at running back, but you got to get him into the football game. There's been a lot of criticism, and the comments section and the calls on these shows, including last week, Bill O'Brien has taken a lot of heat. Bill O'Brien has an opportunity to get a playmaker into the game with Jalen Milroe. We saw him get an opportunity against New Mexico State, and I felt like looking at this exact thing right here, knowing you got Brian Robinson, Trey Sanders, who has not played hardly at all, Christian Leary, who is a receiver, and Kennedy, right? Like, I mean, why not Milroe?
So before I get into Milroe, because we have a specific section that I just want to talk about Milroe. So let me talk about the current running back room, and then I want to give my take on Jalen Milroe, because I think there's a lot of people calling for Milroe right now. I'm also on that bandwagon. But let's look at the current running back room as of today. Now you have Brian Robinson, and look, things may change now that Roydell Williams is out. I mean, this was kind of the emergency format for this particular game against New Mexico State. So going into this next week, I wouldn't be surprised if there is another player that is in this running back room, or if kind of Nick Saban looks at this running back room and makes some adjustments. So currently we have Brian Robinson, and he's more than capable to just be the running back, period. I mean, this guy has been here for a long time, very durable. That's one of his best qualities, right? Mm-hmm. You have Trey Sanders. And I think, as Nick Saban said, this is a great opportunity for him to really showcase what he has. Now, in these small sample sizes, I've been a big fan of Trey. And I think with him scoring that touchdown against New Mexico State, I think it's a great confidence booster, because his story is really incredible. If you've seen the car crash video or the images, when they called the University of Alabama and they talked to Saban, they said we might be able to save his life. That's how dire it was. Like, it wasn't like he's going to be okay. No, they said a couple, I think it was during the Florida game, during the TV broadcast, that they called and were like, we don't know if we're going to be able to save him. So in order to showcase like how far he's come, I still think it's incredible that he's here. Is he 100%? Obviously, because he wouldn't be playing. So this will be, a great opportunity for him to showcase his ability. Then you have Christian Leary and DeMoy Kennedy. Obviously, Christian Leary is a speed guy. I don't know too much more about him in terms of a running back role. I did like what I see, right? Anytime you see kind of a scat back, you get excited. But I liked DeMoy Kennedy, right? Like, he only got a couple carries, but he was angry. I think he almost got kind of like a tussle after like his first carry. He's like, get off me. So DeMoy Kennedy, he's 6'3", 220 pounds. Hey, maybe get him inside some, red zone packages or something like that. But he ran angry. That's what you want from some of your running backs. But I think we have a slide on Jalen Milroe that I also sent over. And let's just kind of talk about Milroe, because that's what everybody wants to talk about is Jalen Milroe, and kind of, the potential role that he could play on this team in the last pivotal games for the Alabama Crimson Tide. So I'll kind of pass the ball back to you here, Mick, to kind of set it up about Jalen Milroe. He's a freshman quarterback. He's third string on the team. So kind of line me up here, and then we'll kind of give some takes on Milroe.
Yeah, Milroe's a running quarterback. He comes in with a lot of ability. He can throw the ball too, but where he's really impressed, Kyle, is when he's come into these games like New Mexico State and he's run the ball. He's a dual threat quarterback, but right now, to me, and I'm definitely curious to hear your opinion, it's been his legs and the fact that he goes back and forth with Jamison Williams over who's the fastest guy on the team. We need that kind of speed, I feel like, right now.
Yeah, so you bring up a great point. So Jalen Milroe, as you said, he's a freshman here at the University of Alabama, currently the third string quarterback behind Young and Tyson. And then you have Milroe. So where I think that, what's up, Kimberly? I see you inside the comment box. I appreciate you being here. Where I think that Jalen Milroe could fit in is in two different areas. So the first, clearly, and I think the easiest, and this is besides quarterback, okay? So the two other areas, I think, is one, the Wildcat package. If Alabama needs to go Wildcat, I don't know why they would. There's different scenarios where sometimes it's like a third and short or whatever. But Jalen Milroe needs to be that guy instead of Slade Bolden. Slade Bolden, look, a great slot receiver, has done a lot for the University of Alabama. You want a guy who has speed, power, strength, and can also throw the football. Now, yes, Slade Bolden can throw the football because he was a quarterback and he was the Gatorade Player of the Year of the state of Louisiana, but Milroe is a different breed. I could just tell you that. I mean, look at Jalen Milroe, for example. I mean, the kid needs to have the football in some capacity. Now, the other area, look, and I'm saying that, and I said this many, many weeks ago, if you follow me on social media, that Jalen Milroe, in my opinion, I think is one of the best runners on the team. And as you said, Mick, the TV broadcast for the second time, and I told everybody this during the preseason, go back and watch my videos. Jalen Milroe is not one of the fastest guys on the team, is the fastest. And I think, Jameson Williams would probably have something to say about that. If he's the fastest guy or the second fastest guy on the team, he needs some sort of carries. He needs some sort of packages. If, in my opinion, if they're looking for running backs on this roster right now, I think that Jalen Milroe is sitting there, and I think he deserves an opportunity to at least be in some sort of rotation because, look, Christian Leary, he's a scat back. I don't think he's a guy who could be a workhorse. I don't think they're looking for a workhorse. I think they're looking for added elements in that running back room. But I think with the combination of speed, size, power, his ability to throw, if it's a wildcat package, if it's a running back package, I think Jalen Milroe could be that guy if he's called on. I'm curious to see if he's able to get those opportunities going forward. I would like to think that he has the athleticism and everything you need. And I'll tell you what, here's some homework for everybody inside the comment box. Okay, listen up. This is very important, okay? Go back and watch Alabama versus Mercer and watch when Jalen Milroe came in with his opportunities. And I'll tell you what, when Jalen Milroe rolled out of the pocket, he created space. He made people miss. He looked, honestly, like one of the best running backs on the team. I get it. He's a quarterback. He's going to be a quarterback moving forward. But if they're looking for an emergency running back, I think you can't discount the fact that Jalen Milroe has everything that you want in terms of an emergency running back as of today.
Here's the other issue, too, with Alabama's offense. It's Bryce Young, who is first-round pick and a playmaker and doing all those great things. The offensive line has been inconsistent. Neal, obviously, is a first-round pick. He's great. And the rest of them, the way that it's been aligned, very inconsistent, and it's gotten worse, right? Although New Mexico State, it's hard to tell the adjustments, but they looked so bad the week before. Wide receiver-wise, Mechie's been okay to me, maybe a little bit better than okay, but not explosive, right? Williams has been explosive. Outside of that, there really hasn't been – you even throw in the tight ends, since the beginning of the season, there really hasn't been that tight end player that's contributed a whole lot of explosiveness. The receivers haven't. Now that you don't have McClellan, who I felt like was a game breaker and is the difference in this offense right now, you don't have that game breaker. The offense has stumbled since they lost him. Roydell Williams, we didn't really even know because he didn't play enough, but when he did some things well. To me, I look at this, and I feel like this Alabama team has a chance to repeat as national champs. I mean, they're right there. They're 9-1. They're going to go 10-1 if they beat Arkansas, and they're a huge favorite, right? Go down to Auburn and handle that. You're 11-1. But we know that there are issues scoring, and there are issues looking for that next game breaker. And here you have it. And I wonder, how stuck they are on having him just be a quarterback, or maybe they find a way to do kind of like what Notre Dame's done. And they have certain packages where they bring in Milroe, where they need a not to say Bryce Young can't run the football, but you just feel like in college, what Alabama's done so well, Kyle, over the last few years is be creative in these spots with players like him. I just wonder if they are creative enough to get him in there, because you get through these next two games, it's going to be tough, but then you play Georgia, and that's an entirely different animal.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that, right now we're kind of talking about emergency running backs and kind of where we're at from the season standpoint, being that 3 marquee running backs have been injured from Alabama, from that very talented running back room. And here's another thing that I talked about on social media just recently is, you look at all the running backs that just exited Alabama within, the last season and a half. You had Jerome Ford, and I get it. He's doing a great job at Cincinnati, but he could, he's one play away from being the guy over here. What about Killen Robinson? I mean, the way that he looked before he transferred to Texas, and I don't know, if you're on Texas's roster right now, I can guarantee you're not that happy. I mean, considering they lost Kansas 57-56, and the whole Bo Davis debacle, right? And then behind that, Kyle Edwards. I mean, he's another guy who transferred out. So you have those 3 running backs that transferred out. And that's why I think it's really interesting for players that are, within the roster, they're freshmen or sophomore. You don't always have to jump ship if you don't play your freshman or sophomore season, because you're always a couple plays away from the depth chart from getting significant playing time. I mean, I guarantee you one of those 3 running backs, Ford, Kyle Edwards, and probably Killen Robinson more than anybody, is probably like, man, I can't imagine if I was at Alabama, I'd probably be playing significant right now, probably behind Brian Robinson. And then after that, be the main man.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And that's what the process has been about. And the people that have stuck through, they've been rewarded. And this is one of those seasons where there are a lot of opportunities. But at the beginning of the year, who would have thought that we'd be in this spot? Guys, as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel, like, subscribe, hit the thumbs up. We appreciate you being here. Hit the bell so you know when we've got shows, and we've got a ton of shows coming on this week. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Monday Night Quarterback. We go 2 for Tuesday with Andrew Bones' recruiting show. He and Trey Yanity get together to give you the update on Alabama recruiting. And then Kyle and I will be back on here, and we will watch the college football playoff rankings as they're announced and comment on those. Wednesday, Kyle and Trey get together, and they do the score prediction contest each week. And then Friday, I'll be at Innisfree at 6 o'clock for the Bama Insider Tailgate Show, plus all of Nick Saban's press conferences and anything else that has to do with Alabama. And you can also go to BamaInsider.com for all the latest news and notes as well. All right, Kyle, Alabama got a lot of help yesterday in wrapping up the West. And for a while, it looked like they were going to have a really, really tough road to get back to Atlanta. And then yesterday happened, and it started with Auburn blowing a 28-3 lead at home to Mississippi State, which was really crazy. And then last night in Oxford, Texas A&M was beaten by Ole Miss, and that sets up Alabama with a win over Arkansas or Auburn. They face Georgia. They win the West again.
Yeah, so Arkansas is an interesting team, and I think when you look at their program right now, their trajectory is certainly pointing upward. I think Sam Pittman has done a good job resurrecting Arkansas in some case, because I think over the last couple of years, Arkansas clearly hasn't been what Razorback fans have wanted them to be. When you look at this team overall, they've been a streaky team. So they started out beating Rice, then they beat Texas. They took it to Texas 40-21. That was a marquee victory. Beat Georgia Southern, and actually beat Texas A&M, a team that beat Alabama. Remember that when Pittman took it to Jimbo Fisher, beating the Aggies 20-10. Then they kind of fell off. They lost to Georgia. I get it. That's a tough loss, 37-0. Then lost to Lane Kiffin, 52-51. That was a back and forth matchup before losing to Auburn. That was a tough gauntlet of a schedule. Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Auburn. Currently, what we have with Arkansas, they won 3 games in a row. They beat UAPB, the Golden Lions, 45-3. They beat Mississippi State, the Pirate, 31-28. And they are coming off another 3-point victory against LSU, a team that played Alabama very tight, and that was overtime with LSU losing to Arkansas 16-13. Now, as you said, the line is Alabama favored by 22. Sam Pittman is, he's a good defensive coach. We kind of remember what they did last year. They kind of drop 8 and, want you to kind of pass through their zone format. But I think, I don't know, Mick, would you take those 22 right now during this time of year?
Yeah, look, I'm looking at it right now, and I'm looking at the different lines. It's 20 and a half. It's 20 and a half. The line's dropped some since it opened, right? Yeah. But I mean, I would take the 20 right now. I mean, like I feel like after watching Arkansas yesterday, the way that they battle, they control the football. They're going to keep it close, I feel like, right? And Alabama has struggled so much, but Alabama always gets that respect.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Alabama will take it to them. And a lot will depend on the play of KJ Jefferson, the quarterback. I don't know if you guys have watched a lot of Arkansas football. I've checked him out a couple times, and he has a couple targets that are very capable. But KJ Jefferson's a big dude. I mean, he's like 6'4", 230. He runs very well. He has a really big arm, live arm, makes a lot of plays, and they their defense is pretty sneaky. So look, 20 points, 22 points. I don't care what it is. The fact of the matter remains, Alabama, all they have to do is keep winning. And that's what they've done. And I think when you look at kind of the college football playoff rankings, you still have two teams from the SEC that are 1 and 2, which puts Alabama clearly in a great position. So if they're able to take care of Arkansas, they win the West, which would set up a for sure matchup with Georgia. I know they still have to take on Auburn, and Auburn's a dangerous team one week, and the next week they're kind of like you're not too worried about them. But as long as Bo Nix is healthy for that game, it is a cause for concern considering it is in Auburn. But Alabama, I think they really take it to Arkansas, to be honest.
How surprised were you yesterday that Auburn blew that football game?
I mean, not so much. I mean, like I said, Auburn's like a team. They're a different team each week, kind of like Alabama is, to be honest, right? I mean, sometimes Bo Nix is on and the new coach, sometimes it feels like they like him, then they don't. So I don't know. I mean, they're 6-4 overall, 3-3 in the SEC. They've lost 2 games. We're talking Auburn here, but then you go back to the late October, they beat Ole Miss, head to head, 31-20.
There's a look at the standings, right there. I can't believe that Nick Saban has been able to just continue the consistency of play. And my opinion on this, Kyle, as we kind of, get into this Alabama team and where they are right now, the strength and the weaknesses of this team, I see the weaknesses. Obviously, the strengths are, Will Anderson Jr., and what he's been able to do on defense, Bryce Young. But like I was mentioning before, the offensive line, the lack of playmakers at receiver, the running back injuries. How surprised are you that here we are with another 9-1 season, looking for another 10-win season, which dates all the way back to 2008, and in the mix again?
Yeah, and I have to clarify, because inside the comment box, people pointing out that Bo Nix injured with the ankle injury. So looks like you'll have TJ Finley. And TJ Finley, I think he was the quarterback who came and played during Auburn's game against, who was it that they had to come back? Was it Georgia Southern?
Georgia State.
Yeah, he had to come back there, and he they won, and the fans rushed the field. Was that the game?
Yes, I think so.
So TJ Finley is 6'7", 240 pounds. I mean, he's a super athletic dude, for sure. So I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, I just want to point that out in the comment box. This game's still obviously in Auburn. I think it'd be tough. Am I surprised to see Alabama at 9-1, still standing tall at this point in the season? No, I think it's not the Alabama team that we're accustomed to seeing. This isn't probably the Alabama standard that Nick Saban is used to. I think it's a drop off overall from last year, but how could it not be? Look at all these guys that we're watching right now on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Najee Harris just rushed for 100 yards. Devontae Smith, he just hauled in 2 touchdowns. I mean, these guys are continuing to dominate on Sundays, and those guys were all on the team last season. So it was a drop off. And I think we continue to say this as well. Where's the leadership on this team? The leaders, we know that. The leaders are William Anderson and Bryce Young. What do both of those players have in common? They're both sophomores.
Yeah, and I feel like the real game-changing playmakers are all freshmen or sophomores. And when you lose all of these guys to the NFL, that's just kind of the way that it works. And I guess the thing that, and this is just my opinion, and I'm kind of curious to see what you think. I just feel like this has been one of all the criticism towards the coaches. This may be one of the most masterful coaching jobs that Nick Saban's done. And we'll know that in years to come to see, who goes on to have an NFL career and is a difference maker, because I see 2 or 3 games that they could have lost this year, but he's created such a mentality and expectation of winning that maybe this team really isn't as good as we think they are, but they continue to find a way to get the W, and they could be undefeated right now.
Yeah, I mean, they're very close to being undefeated, and I know a lot of people aren't happy with Bill O'Brien. They're not, the happiest person that must be that Bill O'Brien came over is Pete Golding, right? Because you don't hear people calling for Pete Golding so much anymore. They're like, wait, Bill O'Brien sucks. So they I guess a lot of you want all of those guys gone, and they just want Saban, and they're like, you know what? And if Bill O'Brien leaves, take Doug Marrone with him. That's kind of like the pulse that we've seen. Saban continues to win, 9-1 on the season with those guys. Wouldn't this be crazy if They go through this season. They beat Georgia. They win another national championship with Pete Golding again. Like, I think Alabama fans would be so frustrated if Pete Golding's able to win back-to-back titles here at Alabama and Saban next year. Is like, guess what? Pete Golding's coming back once again. I think that Bill O'Brien probably is going to go back to the NFL in some capacity. Same with Doug Marrone. I don't know what's going to happen with Pete Golding. I mean, consider if they keep winning, I would assume that he stays here, or Saban finds him a nice job somewhere in the SEC or in the NFL, like he does, right? Like Saban's going to take care of you. Like he's loyal, and you make sure that if you're going to part ways, you're going to be taken care of. I think Washington just fired their head football coach, right? So I was reading BamaInsider calling for Jimmy Lake to come back to Tuscaloosa. So that's kind of where we are.
All right. Well, Kyle, anything else before we get to the phone calls tonight?
No, I just want to hear on the phone calls, like, is it more Bill O'Brien? Is it Pete Golding? Jalen Milroe.
You're stirring the pot.
Yeah. And please, I want to hear if Jalen Milroe could be that running back. And now we're in an emergency situation. So I'll be, curious to hear your guys' take. I appreciate you guys. We'll catch up with you guys. We have Saban tomorrow at 12. We have the player interviews at 1 o'clock. And then, of course, Monday Night Quarterback, Alabama basketball. The news don't stop at BamaInsider. We appreciate you, fam.
All right. Thanks, Kyle. Kyle Henderson, the managing editor of BamaInsider, and always great to talk to him on Sunday. Now it's time to talk to you guys, but make sure you like and subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you for being here tonight. And, a little thumbs up says Roll Tide to us as we hang out. All right, let's go right to the phone lines and talk to you guys tonight about what your thoughts are. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, sir, Robert from Mobile.
What's up, Robert?
Well, they definitely did what they had to do yesterday. Get some good feelings back on the team again, and put a beat down on a team opponent that they're obviously superior to in every way. But you just didn't need to come out stumbling against this team this weekend. The first drive, they get 3 points. Okay, that's not too terrible. But definitely need to show any hesitancy on the running game. It's great to see Brian Robinson break a big one like he did. That was fun to watch. Hadn't seen that all season. So wouldn't mind seeing a little more better play on a tight end. So the two had a good game. But Billingsley, that drop, really need to clean that up where you're not dropping balls anymore, because that's, well, he made up for it with the flexion right back to him with a second touchdown, so that helped a lot to make up for it. But still had to drop anyway, so that wasn't a good thing to see. But overall, did what they had to do. And they beating down that team didn't impress the playoff committee. Nobody cares about that or the poster or the ESPN. It was just for the team, to start feeling good. 240, 50-something yard rushing or something like that. That's what we needed again.
They needed that. I mean, after getting less than 10 yards last game.
Yeah, I mean, and because Bryce is just continuing on. It's quite an impressive performance. It's great to see him, the connection he and Jameson Williams are starting to get for each other. It'd be nice to see him with Mechie being the main guy, but I mean, Jameson Williams was the guy to take off the top on off the defenses. So it's great to see those guys get connected. I tell you though, Georgia is still turning into an absolute beast. They just don't slow down. If the quarterback for Tennessee was a bit more accurate, that might have given Georgia more of a problem. Of course, Bryce is probably the most accurate quarterback in college football right now. So could definitely give them problems if the offensive line gives them time. They did look much better today, this week. They did allow one sack fumble against this team, so that wasn't good to see. But overall, they still play much better, open holes for the running backs. That was a great thing to see. So, it was just fun to watch, and hopefully they'll beat down Arkansas like they should. We played blind, 20 points? Was that it?
Yeah, 20 and a hook right now, so 20 and a half for that game. That seems an awful lot to me, but Alabama's been Jekyll and Hyde. The games that they've played well, they've crushed the opposition, and the ones where they've struggled, it has been a struggle.
definitely need to cover that if they're wanting to beat up on Georgia, challenge Georgia, because not everything is about beating Georgia. I mean, it's been that way really almost from the first game of the season.
Mm-hmm.
It's been about beating Georgia, and that hasn't changed. So what they're trying to do now is to put the team together that can beat the Georgia Bulldogs, because they're the best team in the country. You want to be the best team in the country, then you have to beat that team. I think Alabama could beat anybody else. That doesn't give me any cause for concern, but Georgia's the team. So beating up on Arkansas and beating up on Auburn without a Bo Nix or whoever, that gets the team in the right position and the right feeling to go up against Georgia. And like Kyle was saying about who do we blame more, right now it's offensive line. If we get the offensive line together to where it's playing championship football, we still have a chance to pull it out. So it's right now everything is the O-line, getting the right guys, getting them in sync, and getting all that together again. We can get that going, then we will have a chance against Georgia. We can't. The mistakes in the past, Georgia will assure it's over, and all they need is a few turnovers and to turn the game out, as we saw when they played Tennessee. So get things fixed up and get the O-line together. That's all about beating the Georgia Bulldogs. Everybody else, we should be able to handle pretty well. It's just Georgia's the only X factor. And our reward is we'll have to do it twice.
Right.
If we beat them once, the reward is we'll have to do it twice.
Yep. I'm concerned, Robert. I mean, that front for Georgia and the way that this offensive line for Alabama has struggled. I mean, Bryce Young would be running for his life in that game right now. But the thing about it is, if Alabama figures out the offensive line thing, Georgia has some weaknesses. It's just being able to give Bryce Young enough time to throw downfield and take advantage of them.
Yeah, right now the Georgia defensive line would give last year's offensive line a run for its money. That was one of the best offensive line ever. And if they would give them a run for their money. So an offensive line is suspect. Unless Bryce Young goes full Jalen Hurts mobility, it could just be a disaster for us if he can. A combination of the two, him going, using his mobility to the utmost degree, and the line improving, could help us get by them twice, I guess. Because that's the funny thing how this season's turning out. That these both teams, if they win, will have to play each other again. Because I really do not believe anyone else can beat these two teams except each other. The A&M game, despite Alabama had to make a ton of mistakes and for A&M just to win it by 3 points. Now, they're not going to keep doing that with Ohio State. And Oklahoma's a joke right now. If the committee had it right with Oklahoma, and all these Oklahoma fans were upset. But that's what they were telling you. That's what they saw, and that's what Oklahoma did. So, and no one else, like Ohio State's probably the closest team that can come to either team, but everybody else is just a far distance.
Yeah. Look, the committee had it right. I think that's a great point about Oklahoma, and you saw that yesterday. Alabama's gotten a lot of help with the other teams that are losing. The problem is that years where Alabama struggled like this, there hasn't been another team, where they've come back and won the national championship, like the year they lost to Texas A&M when they had Johnny Football. They came back to win the championship. And there wasn't a team that was out there like this Georgia team that is absolutely dominating. I mean, I thought Tennessee came out and got going and showed some, that you can move the football on them. And then all of a sudden you turn around and it's like a blowout, They haven't been tested at all this year. I really feel like Alabama can do it. It's just with the injuries at the offensive line spot, they're just going to have to improve a lot. And did I have 2 tough games even to get there? Whereas Georgia is, I'm sure they're game planning for Alabama as we speak.
Oh, yeah. Georgia's rest of their schedule is just a joke. They're virtually scrimmage game. They can run the ball 90 times and win the game by 30 points. So the quarterback for Georgia, he is an elite as far as the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in college football. So we don't necessarily have that to worry about. But again, with their defense, you can. Greg McElroy hits their way to the championship the way Alabama did. He can just quarterback just managing the game because the defense just aren't allowing any points. This is where Alabama's offense is going to have to be. I think the only one that can challenge them. Maybe Ohio State can give them a bit of a run, but Ohio State defense, as we have seen, is not all that good. So Alabama's the only one that can probably challenge them with as far as scoring over, getting to that 21 point. A measuring stick that no one else seems to be able to do. That's a really incredible run there Georgia's on. I mean, no one scored 14 points on them all season. That's highly impressive.
Wow. And the funny part is that what they're doing, playing that old Alabama style of defense and ball control and taking shots when you can, but running the football. The reason it's working this year is that there are no, like take Alabama. They lost so many good players to the NFL and playmakers. There just isn't that team, and a lot of the other teams are kind of in the same spot too, that you look at on paper and you go, okay, yeah, these guys are going to be able to block and take advantage of Georgia's secondary. No one even gets to that point because Georgia's pass rush is so ferocious.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Last year's team Georgia would hold them below their average, but again, their average was 45?
Yeah, right.
But last year's team could probably hit this year's Georgia team for 30 points, and that would be enough to win the game for them, for us. This year, I'm not so confident we can hit 30. We can get 30 points, but maybe more around can we do 24-ish? If we can get around that range, then in our defense, get some key stops. I think that's how this game will probably turn out. One of the things that we have going for us, we'll come in as the underdog, and Georgia will have the pressure of being the number 1 team and the team to beat.
Right.
And how do they handle it? And if we get some early on, some scores early, what can they do? They haven't had to play from behind yet. What can they do?
Right. Yeah. How are they going to be able to handle the bullseye? Right.
Yeah, exactly. All right, man. Let the other people get on with you. Good talking with you.
Hey, Robert, always great to hear from you, man. Great call. Thank you. Roll Tide. Let's do it again next week. All right, that's Robert from Mobile, one of the best callers that we have on here. Let's go right back to the phone lines again. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, Mick, this is Jarek from Buffalo.
What's up, Jarek?
Nothing much, man. Yeah, I just listened to that call, and it's like we don't want to talk about Georgia, but at this point, it's like that's the benchmark. That's where we want to be right now. And that's getting our way to Atlanta. Now, of course, we got to get through Arkansas, and and Auburn first. And first of all, prayers up to Bo Nix. I hope he gets better. You never want to see anybody suffer the type of injury that he did, but so hopefully he gets better and he can play football next year. Georgia is the benchmark. And, after watching that Georgia-Tennessee football game, I think you were on the money. It's like it reminded me so much of us, right? That physical, just possession of the football, run the football, that boa constrictor type of football where, it's just 4 quarters of just strangling an opponent to death. And it reminded me of what we used to do.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it reminds me of too. I look at it and I go, here we are kind of in that same spot again, where we have a chance to see Alabama play for a national champion, except now they're looking at a style that represented the way that football used to be played. It's beatable. That's why Alabama switched out of it. But the issue is does Alabama have the playmakers to take advantage of the weaknesses? And I'm watching Tennessee play last night, and Tennessee left a lot out on the table. And part of it is they just don't have the playmakers to take advantage of it.
No, they don't. They really had one receiver that can really take advantage of it. And again, that receiver had 200 yards receiving, Nick. He had 200 yards in that game. So it's not like, and even if you go back to the South Carolina game, South Carolina had one receiver that had over 150 yards in that game. So Georgia, they're susceptible. It's not like they're completely, immune. It's not like this is, not the greatest defense that we've ever seen, because there are playmakers, there are receivers that can take advantage of that secondary. It's just about, do we have the right playmakers to really get on them? And so far, I think there's probably one team that has the playmakers and the offensive play style that will give Georgia fit all day long, and that's Ohio State's offense. That's the only offense I can see with Ryan Day and with all those receivers, those playmakers on the outside that can do it. I think with us, which gives us the best chance to beat Georgia, is our defense. I think our defense is the best possibility that we can do it. And I know a lot of people are not pleased with the defense, even myself. I'm not going to sit up here and say that I have not been pleased with it. But if you actually look at the stats, and this is the crazy part, we're 10th in the nation in defense, right? So despite all the criticism that we've had, right, we, according to the statistics and everything like that, we have a top 10 defense. We're one of the best rushing defenses in the nation, which got to give credit to Pete Golding. We've done a really good job of improving our rush defense. We've only given up over 93 yards per game, a game in the rushing department. And we've made some improvements with our defensive line. I've really liked what I see from Timothy Smith. I really liked what I've seen from Ferdinand Mathis. And of course, Dallas Turner is coming onto his own as a player that trusts the process, third string guy. And now he's a guy that has I think around 3 or 4 sacks of the season. So we're starting to get more players to step up in place, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And that's what you got to do to beat Georgia. I don't think it's going to be a game where Bama's going to put up over 30. It's going to be a game where, just like Robert said, Bama's probably going to put up maybe, can they get to 20? Can they get to 24? Right? Is this going to be an Alabama LSU 2011 type of matchup where you're going to need your defense to step up and have their best game and really slow down that rushing attack and not really let Georgia make the big plays, those vertical passing plays?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question, and a great comment in the comment section too, where they're saying, "Hey, we got to beat Arkansas." Let me pull it up here.
That's true.
Let's take it one game at a time. Arkansas is going to be tough. I agree. Yeah. Look, and I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying, Jarek. I mean, you're right on the money. The issue with this team is they struggled against LSU, a game that you should win if you're Alabama by 30 points, right? They struggled against Florida. They blew out other teams that, were like Ole Miss. We find out that Ole Miss really is legitimately a good team this year, bordering on great offensively. But for Alabama, I mean, they still have to take care of business against Arkansas, and then they got to go down and play Auburn, and then they got to go play against Georgia. And the other part of this that's kind of scary, when you start losing star players to New Mexico State, what's going to happen next week? What's going to happen the next week? Alabama this year just has had a lot of bad luck too.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, I will say this. One benefit of playing at Arkansas or playing in Auburn is that those are two physical football teams, right? Even though Auburn, has some bad luck, we all know that's a decent football team. That's a decent football team. Arkansas is a decent football team, and they struggled against LSU last week. I mean, on Sunday. They struggled. They barely won that game in overtime. But Arkansas is a very physical game. But what those two games could potentially prepare us for if we can get through it, is that, again, it's not like we're going against Austin Peay the next couple of weeks. We're going against two very physical football teams, which can prepare us for Georgia, which is the freakiest of the freaks when it comes to physicality. So we have to. So I feel like that's really good preparation if we can get past those two games. I do agree with that comment that we do need to take it one game at a time. Both teams are definitely gonna try to establish a run game. I'll say this, Mick. That's a game where the line of scrimmage is going to be tested.
Yes.
Right. Both defenses are really good. Both defenses, even though they're, again, two different types of schematics, they both have really good fronts. They both have some defensive linemen that are going to get drafted into the NFL next year, and they're going to try to test out our physicality. Those are two defensive fronts that are going to try to establish a dominant presence and to really set the tempo right off the gate. So that's a great test. Honestly, both those teams are really good tests. And if we can get past those 2 games, Georgia's going to be waiting for us. But if we can get past these 2 games, and if we can maybe establish a dominance like we used to, I'm pretty confident going into that Georgia game.
I'll tell you this right now, and with Roydell going down, I'm not as confident as I was before. But, I mean, just looking ahead, if there was one team that Georgia shouldn't want to play, it's Alabama, because Alabama can beat them. I don't look at anyone else in the SEC and think that anyone can. I mean, look, no one's even challenged them yet. I look at the teams that are going to be in the college football playoff. They're not going to get challenged there either. But, Alabama has proven time and time again that they're going to play up to the level of the competition that they play. And the thing about Nick Saban as head coach is that that's been the way Alabama's been the level of competition that everyone else was striving for. What's amazing is that this year it's actually Georgia. And I love Nick Saban in a game where everyone's going to be picking against Alabama. And look, that line could be from 3 or 4 for Georgia all the way to 10. And Alabama hasn't been an underdog like that in a long time.
Yeah, and I agree. And, who Georgia started to remind me of a little bit? They're starting to remind me a little bit of 2017 Clemson. Remember that?
Yes.
Remember that when, we were underestimated. Everyone thought that our defense was kind of lost a little bit. Our offense was not going to set the tempo. Clemson was just going to be this big, this big dog that was, again, they were number 1 ranked in the country even after losing to Syracuse. And they were favored to beat us by a couple scores. And we ended up just absolutely just demolishing them after being underdogs. That possibility is still there for us, but we gotta, again, it's these 2 games, man. It's this Arkansas game. It's this Auburn game. These are 2 games, which are going to be really, really good tests for us. And it's going to really, and I think the thing that I want to see the most is which one of our young guys can step up and make plays.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas Turner has been that guy, right? He waited his turn, got his opportunity, and he's made the most of it. Like, which one of our younger guys can step up, make huge plays? Can our secondary get straightened out? Because again, even against the New Mexico State game, the first series, what did we struggle with? Pre-snap motion, motion and movement. We struggled with that in the first series, and we allowed like 2 or 3 busted coverages. So can our secondary in these next 2 games, can it be fixed? Can we fix that? Can we fix the communication there? Again, hopefully DeMarco Hellman's plays it, but if he doesn't play, Daniel Wright, he's had enough experience to figure out this defense. So hopefully he can step up in the presence of DeMarco Hellman if DeMarco Hellman is not ready to go. But, again, just the thing I'm looking for is which one of our younger guys on both the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball can step up in these next 2 huge games that we have.
Yeah, good question. Or, and can the offensive line find itself? What if if this team, and I don't think they've played their best game. I hope they haven't. I hope the first half against Ole Miss wasn't the best that this team has, because this team, if the offensive lines just figured it out now, this team could really have a run here. Could make could win a championship. And I guess that's the level that we expect now at Alabama, win a championship, win the SEC championship. That would be an accomplishment. Win a national championship, number 19. That would be amazing. This team is right there. As good as Georgia is, Alabama's right on the verge of being there. But and I think that until the offensive line gets it right, Alabama's not going to win it.
Yeah, and again, I think wasn't Damian George starting at right tackle against New Mexico State?
I think he was.
Yeah, so I still feel like you're right. We're still trying to figure out our offensive line, but Chris Owens, I didn't think he had a bad game last week. I thought he had a very, very good game, and Chris Owens, he's our best center. I mean, as much as Jaron Delcourt has played this year, Chris Owens is right back to his natural position, which is at the center position.
Right.
And if Damian George is a big guy at 6'6", 340-something pounds, he's a big dude. So I feel like if we can establish some rhythm, if we can establish continuity on our offensive line, if Emil Ekiyor can step up and play, we all know that the left side has been the biggest strength for this team with Javon Cohen and Evan Neal.
Mm-hmm.
It's just about the right side. Can we fix the interior there? right? Can Chris Owens, can he step up and be that big presence at the center position if they're going to continue to allow him to play at center, or maybe they're going to go back to Darren Delcourt? But I would really love this lineup. I really like this lineup. I think Damian George is a natural right tackle. I think he's a guy that can learn. He's a big, strong, and physical presence. He's a bully right there at the run tackle position in the run department. And I feel like that's something that we've missed. We've missed having bullies, right? Landon Dickerson was a guy that was an enforcer. It feels like we don't really have that enforcer on the offensive line. So, again, I would just stick with this lineup. And, it's better to do it against Arkansas and Auburn than to wait all the way into the Georgia game to try to figure out what you can have there. So, that's why I got to go back, is that these are two really good tests for Alabama to see if we can be prepared for Georgia.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. It's exciting to know that if you win next week, then the Iron Bowl is meaningless. They can't ruin the season. I mean, they can beat you, but they can't ruin the season. That's the best part about Saturday. It takes a lot of pressure off of the guys going down on the plains, a place where Alabama's had some terrible luck over the years. And all of a sudden, it just becomes the last game of the season. And I think when you play that way, when you play loose, good things happen. And I thought that was the best part about the way they blew that game to Mississippi State, other than it was just great watching them blow the game, to be honest with you. I mean, I loved everything about it. Like, I enjoyed watching every second of that game as they were giving it away, and I guess that's because I'm an Alabama fan. I don't know.
No, I did too. I thought it was hilarious that they lost that game. And I think it was even more hilarious that Florida almost lost to Stanford. But, honestly, again, I never want to wish injuries, happen to anybody.
No.
But, if we, for Bo Nix to be out, I'm actually glad that it happened this week, because we need to see more film on TJ Finley. Like, it would have sucked, honestly, if we got hurt after we beat Arkansas, because you're trying to establish a game plan. You're trying to figure out what you can prepare for. And then all of a sudden you find that TJ Finley is going to be the quarterback, and say, oh, well, do we have any film on him? And it would definitely suck for us, because, offensive coordinators, offensive minds, they have different game plans. They have different playbooks for different quarterbacks. And that's just, and knowing the struggles on our defense, especially in our secondary, that would just be bad luck for us, especially playing all the way over there in Jordan-Hare. So for us to get some game film on their quarterback, just to see what type of game plan we need to kind of prepare for, I feel like this honestly is the perfect time, the perfect moment for it to happen. Obviously, again, we got to get through Arkansas. That's going to be a tough physical game it's going to be one of the trenches. Arkansas is not a throwing football team. They got a great receiver in Treylon Burks, which can give, a guy like Josh Jones or maybe Jalen Armour-Davis some trouble. But that'll be a good test to see how these guys will react to it. But obviously the Auburn game with their quarterback, it will be just good to see have some tape on, honestly.
Yeah, I think you make a great point there. I saw him a little bit at the end of that game against Georgia State, and he did a nice job, but the Iron Bowl is a different animal. It's still going to be tough. It doesn't matter which guy plays. Bo Nix has the ability to scramble around and do some things. So I'm not really, to be honest with any of you guys, I don't know the severity of Bo Nix's injury or anything like that. And I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that tomorrow. But TJ Finley's from LSU. Guy knows how to play quarterback. So Alabama's still going to have their work cut out for him. But, I mean, still, it's like this game coming up against Arkansas. Arkansas has won 7 games this year. And I know. And I took them. Of course, I bet against Ed Orgeron because anytime you lose a game and you walk out like you won, you're going to lose the next game. And that's exactly what happened. But you know what? I mean, they could have won, but Arkansas played the smarter football game. They played the smarter game, and they don't beat themselves with mistakes. Their offensive and defensive lines are solid. I mean, they're a program on the rise right now. And, we thought that when they played Georgia, they would have a chance to beat them, but Georgia got onto them so fast they never had a shot. So Alabama's probably going to have to do the same thing to win comfortably in that football game. You just wouldn't want to get into one of these games where it's the fourth quarter and you're in the same situation you were with LSU, where you're just having problems moving the football again.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that. Arkansas is a team that, again, they don't beat themselves with mistakes. Again, they're not the greatest team in the world. They're not a great passing team. But again, it's a team that has established a culture so far. And, playing a team that already has that established culture, which is, again, it's a right culture, it's a winning culture. That's a very dangerous team to kind of play against. And, Arkansas, that even though they did struggle with LSU, they did find a way to win, just like the University of Alabama. So, yeah, playing a team that finds ways to win no matter what situation that they're in, that's a very dangerous team to kind of play against there. Again, just like how I kind of implemented earlier, this is going to be a game that's going to be one of the trenches, right? Arkansas relies on running the football. KJ Jefferson is a threat running the football. And again, it's a team that establishes the run, sets up the pass later for Treylon Burks and some of those other playmakers to have. And it's a great test. It's a great test for our defensive line. It's a great test to see if, besides Will Anderson, who else can go out there and make plays? Can Timothy Smith continue to put the pressure on? Can he continue to be a big force? Because we haven't really seen that from DJ Dale. Can it be for Darian Mathis? Can it be Dallas Turner once again? Can our inside linebackers continue to make strides and make improvements? Because that's one area that we need to see have their best game. Like these next 2 to 3 games, it needs to happen. Like it definitely needs to happen this per game. And can our secondary once again can this be their best game? Can we not see a lot of the mental mistakes where we give up those busted coverages every single game? Can it be fixed for this game? Because Arkansas is going to do everything in their power to try to confuse this defense, right? Florida, and we always take a look at that Florida game. Was a game that we gave up 254 yards, but again, it was a game that they won in the trenches. They won by running the football, and Emory Jones with those quarterback runs gave Alabama fits. We couldn't really figure it out, especially in the second half of that game. So playing another team like Florida, it might give us nightmares. But again, we've gotten better ever since that Florida game. At least defensively, we've gotten a little bit better, especially against the trenches. We've averaged again over 90. We've given up over 93 yards a game, which is 10th right now in the country. So we've gotten better. We've made strides. We've made improvements, but it's all about putting that together against a very difficult team like Arkansas.
Yeah, no doubt. Jarek, always great to hear from you, man.
Oh, yeah, man. Definitely have a good night, Nick. Roll Tide, brother.
Roll Tide, bro. Thank you. Thank you. Great call. All-American caller right there, Jarek. From Buffalo, where the Bills won today. They won in convincing fashion after losing to the Jaguars in the NFL, but we always talk college football. All right, let's go right back to the phone lines again. And as you guys hang out with us, make sure you like and subscribe. Please hit the thumbs up. That's a great way of saying Roll Tide as we talk Alabama football on the Sunday night. Who's this and where are you calling from?
What's up, Mick? This is Sean from Huntsville, SPH Huntsville.
Hey, what's up, Sean?
What's going on, man? How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. I'm kind of glad the New Mexico State game's out of the way just so that we can get back to serious football. Don't tell Kyle that, though.
Yeah, me too. I'm I told myself I wasn't going to dip and dab in this Georgia talk, but it's kind of like what Jared said. At this point, we have 2 games left. We win 1. We go to the SEC championship regardless. So my focus is clearly on Arkansas right now. Me personally, I think Arkansas is going to be a tough game, man. Those guys are physical, and I can assure you they're going to take the defensive blueprint from Texas A&M without a shadow of a doubt. But I do think we can have some RPO success against those guys. They're very, very, very aggressive. I think we can have a lot of success on offense against Arkansas. I really do. I think that those guys are going to be very, very, very aggressive in the front 7, and I think Bryce is going to have a big day against those guys. I also want to give a big props and big shout out to Fedarian Mathis, man.
Yes.
Field has stepped his game up. I don't know if, a lot of people paid attention individually, but the last couple of weeks, Field has been a dominant force on that front 7, and, especially on the D-line. That guy has been awesome. He's played, really, to me, his best football of the year. I worry about B-Rob, though, man. I worry about B-Rob because of our depth. It reminds me of 2014, I think it was. We had B. Hart and Terrian Smith and rest in peace, T. Tenpenny and Derek and TJ and Kenyon and Alvin Kamara. We had all these guys, but by the end of the season, we played Georgia in some of our latter parts of the season games. It was just really Derek.
Yeah. It
was just Derek. This guy was carrying the ball 25 and 30 times a game. And we ended up winning the national championship that year. Went out and had a big game against Clemson. So I do worry about that depth at times when it's time for him to come out for a breather. I was happy in the New Mexico State game when those guys, had a lot of pre-snap motion on our defense. We had a few, it's kind of like what Jerry said, we had a few mismanaged, downs, few bad calls, few confusing moments. But for the most part, those guys were where they were supposed to be. I worry about our safeties, though, I worry about our safeties, man. Those guys seem to always be, I don't know if their communication is off or those guys just get caught in the wrong position a lot. So, I worry about those guys, man. Have you really paid attention to our safeties and see what you think about those guys?
Sean, I can't disagree. I mean, and I don't know enough, and I've said this before, I'm not sure why. Because they'll make 3 or 4 great plays and be in perfect position, and then all of a sudden it's like these breakdowns out of nowhere, like they're just out of nowhere. It's like, whoa, what happened there? It's not consistently, it's not consistent breakdowns. It's just the occasional breakdown. But when it happens, it is bad.
It's bad. You're right. It's bad. Hopefully those guys get that corrected. These guys are going to be a lot similar to the Florida offense. A lot of quarterback runs, a lot of short passes, trying to turn it into a lot of pick plays. They're very similar, but more physical. They have a lot more off-tackle runs than Florida did. These guys are going to be physical up front. They got a big physical offensive line. Not very good in pass protection, but run blocking, they're extremely physical.
Right.
They come off the ball hard. Defensive front and middle linebackers will be tested Saturday. If we pass this test, if we look good in this game, I'm ready. I'll get my confidence back as far as, schematically. I have the confidence in the defense. It's just a schematic standpoint, kind of like what we've been talking about. Guys getting caught in the wrong plays, guys having, farts, 1 or 2 times during a series. It's just like, come on, guys. But let me say this. As far as UGA is concerned, man, watching that game with Tennessee, I've said this all year long. I'll say it again. I give those guys their credit. But Georgia, I'm telling you, these guys, and understandably so, their defense is so aggressive, it's very difficult to move the ball against those guys. But I will say, those guys have not faced a quarterback or an offense in whole that can stretch the field. What I mean by stretch the field is not allow those guys to play honest, not allow those guys to play 1 safety, 2 safety high. We want those guys to come on down the box. You know what I mean? They hadn't faced the offense that can stretch them vertically down the field all season long. Tennessee had some success against those guys with that. They just don't have the horses to sustain. One thing I will say about Georgia, I respect the way they blitz, man. If you pay attention to the way those guys blitz, they blitz with a purpose. You know what I mean by with a purpose? They don't just blitz to go in and get blocked. They blitz with everyone trying to get there.
Yeah.
We all are trying to get there. You know what I mean? So that part, I will say, is a concern. You know what I mean? But those guys have, I counted, they have 7 seniors on their defense. It reminds me a lot of our offense last year.
Yeah. They
have several guys that'll be gone after this year, man. So I think those guys are putting all their eggs in the basket this year. But I'm telling you, what I saw from Tennessee is something that I was thinking, but I wouldn't, I didn't want to get too overconfident. I think Alabama can move the ball on those guys.
I do too.
Because when our offense blocks well, we can move the ball on anybody. That's a fact, on anybody. But I think we'll be fine, man. This Arkansas game is gonna tell me a lot as a fan. It'll tell me a lot as how we handle a physical front. Georgia's offense don't run that fast ball. That's a good thing about it. They try to go tempo, but for the most part, they don't use tempo a lot. They'll use tempo in between certain down and distances and try to go fast or play here or play there. But Georgia's more line them up and, run the ball right at you, open up the play action. Reminds me a lot of how we used to be back in the day.
Yeah.
So that's one plus I really would put in our phone book. We don't play well starting off against teams that run the fastball offense. We seem to get discombobulated at times, like this coming Saturday. So this Arkansas will tell us a lot, man. This Arkansas game will really let us know if we've made any type of adjustments as far as quarterback runs and things of that nature. Like we was talking about, don't know if Bo Nix will play. God be with him. And, all the young men who got injured in any game. Hate to see that. Never want to see that for these young kids. But I think we'll be fine, man. I think we'll be fine. Loved how we look against New Mexico State. I understand it's a lesser talented opponent. But every opponent is just that, an opponent. You got to look good, man.
Mm-hmm.
You got to look good. So listen, I appreciate you guys taking my call. I'll be in the chat, chatting it up with everybody. And thank you for taking my call, and I'll continue to support it.
Hey, thanks, Sean. Always love to hear from you, man. All-American caller. Great to talk football with Sean from Huntsville. And I just appreciate you guys calling in and making this show so much fun to do. Let's take some more calls and like and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Say Roll Tide to us as we hang out with you on a Sunday night talking about Alabama and the matchup they have coming up against Arkansas, maybe Auburn after that, maybe Georgia. I mean, we're talking about it all tonight as Alabama improved to 9-1 with a huge, and I don't mean huge as in epic win over an opponent, but a huge victory by a score margin over New Mexico State to pull to 9-1 on the season. All right, who's this and where you calling from?
Kevin, Dallas, Georgia. How you doing this evening?
Hey, what's up, Kevin?
Not a thing. I'm just glad we got a little bit of civility as far as this evening, because before Sean, I was getting ready to think everybody was getting ready to jump off the Empire State Building. I mean, we respect all opponents, but we fear none. And that's the thing as far as with this team. The question that I will pose to the listeners as well as the viewers is just simply, when it comes to this Alabama defense, comparing and contrasting as far as last year, would you say that the only difference between last year's defense and this year's defense is one, number 58? Because just imagine if 58 or a semblance of 58 was next to Mr. Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Would we be saying what we're saying about the Alabama defense this year?
Yeah, I you're right. I mean, a little more of a pass rush, and I think it would go a long way.
And then along the lines, as far as OC is concerned, I think that if you allow me to approach the bench, Your Honor, the offensive coordinator for the University of Alabama is presently the head coach for the University of Texas.
That's right.
Because the one thing that would not be happening right now, and you know this, Mick, is that there's no way that a young man that was a five-star linebacker from Theodore High School will be playing running back, and Exhibit A will be Demoy Kennedy. Demoy Kennedy is a linebacker, boys and girls. And I don't want to say this, but I have to say this. He runs like a linebacker, Mick. Mm-hmm. So by that being the case, he should not be in the backfield as far as from here on out. Because the one thing that I do feel is and I hate to, it's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday, but if Sark was there would be X amount of packages for, as Kyle had stated earlier, for Jalen Milroe. There would be X amount of packages. Okay, we're down to 2.5 running backs. Okay, we can find some way to use Christian Leary.
Right.
We have too much doggone talent, Mick, in the classes of 20 and 21. Now, this is where, hey, if it's a card game and you have, which I'm not a card aficionado, I'll lean on you, Mick. If you have all those good hands, are you going to hold those hands? Or are you going to say, hey, dealer, can you beat this? And we have all that. We have the high joker, the low joker. We have all the aces, all the kings, Mick. Mm-hmm. But what purpose does it serve to have the best hand? And we're not utilizing it. And
exactly.
We have to do this.
Hold on, Kevin.
Arkansas,
you're nailing it right
it
now. And I hate to interrupt you, but I'm just going to tell you what you're saying is 100% accurate. That is well, I mean, like, that's exactly what I was trying to tell Kyle earlier in the show. You just said it better than I did. That's exactly it.
And that's it, Mick, because the thing is, as far as Bone has gone, some would say ad nauseum, I would say music to my ears. The best recruiting class of all time, mm-hmm. as far as 21. Mr. Anderson's class was, in the words of Jimmy Walker, dynamite. So by that being the case, we have to allow those young men to play. Because the one thing that I saw as far as in some young men's cases, as far as like Mr. Javon Baker from over in Powder Springs, as well as the young man, A.J. Hall, is that it seemed like a few times in which the ball was thrown them, I think on those particular occasions, it was Paul Tyson. And they got upset because the ball may have been a little bit underthrown, but they still were able to make the reception. But the one thing as far as both of those young men, and I would say more so as far as Baker's concerned, Baker, if you blocked, you'll be on the field.
Yes.
You are a star as far as catching the ball. But if you cannot block, you cannot play. But I just wish, Mick, and maybe you could, I don't know if you're as far as a Bewitched fan or whatever, but maybe if you ask your wife to wiggle her nose or something and it would cause O'Brien to come out of the press box. Because my thing is can't you show a little bit more as far as if you're in someone's face and say, okay, Mick, I need you to do so and so and so and so. Isn't that response better coming from the OC than coming from a hanger-oner?
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, Mick, when I see him in the press box, and I have to be honest with you, I've shared this with my wife, and that is he looking at his play sheet or is he looking at a menu from Ruth Chris? I'm just asking. Because if he did know, Mick, hey, everything is a la carte. I mean, it's not a matter of it's not a matter of it being a package deal. O'Brien, you have to buy the steak by itself, the loaded baked potatoes by itself, et cetera, et cetera. Now, as far as the coffee is concerned, you could drink it until you can't drink it anymore. Until you can't drink it anymore, but it's at one price, Mr. O'Brien.
Right. Free refills.
Thank you very much, Mick. Thank you very much.
Kevin, I got to move you to All-American Caller. I mean, you're bringing it today, man. Like, it's like you're in my brain. Thank you.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, I would say that Sean is my younger brother from another mother.
Yeah.
And when he got on, it just set me off because the one thing about this year, Mick, is that it is on a doggone platter.
Yeah.
For them to win. And I know that you hate me, Mick, when it comes to me being a meteorologist as far as when it comes to looking at next year's schedule, which Kyle, if he could rip out his eyes and also as far as gouge himself in the brain, he would as far as next year's schedule. But the thing is, as far as this year is concerned, it is set up for that, and even more so next year. And for those that don't look toward the future as far as next year's schedule is, boys and girls, the toughest team that Alabama will play on the road next year is the University of Texas. And upon further review, that won't be a tough game as far as next year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're hopefully we can do something this year. And I agree. This season is on a platter. And the thing that you're saying that I agree with more than anything else, why would you have this hand of cards and not play the best cards that you have at this point? You gave the guys who have stuck around the opportunity, and some of them have done it and some of them haven't. And it's time to go ahead and pull those aces out, drop them on the table and run with them, right? The high and the low jacks, as you said. Let's get them in there, because at the end of the day, no one's going to remember that you kept playing, Chris Owens and you kept playing, Emil Icky or whatever. No one's going to care about that. They're going to look at the bottom line is that if you lose to Georgia, we're in the Citrus Bowl, right?
Exactly. And when it comes to, and I can appreciate and I respect Coach Saban when it comes to that L word, loyalty.
Yeah.
And that's what you just stated as far as him being loyal to players. But let's hearken to this. And that's when it comes to a young man who came out of high school as a 5-star. He came out of high school as a 5-star, and he had a mixed results as far as being, if you had to compare him to his dad, who his dad is the all-time leading tackler at the University of Alabama. Now, when you look at this particular young man's resume, blind resume, he has 2 national championships on his resume. But as far as when it comes to his production on the field, at best you would probably, if you are a teacher that grades on a scale, you might give him, say, a C+. And the person I'm talking about is Ben Davis. Ben Davis couldn't hold as far as his dad, as far as Wayne Davis, as far as his credentials as far as on the field. But when it's all said and done, 2 national championships, the opportunity to grad transfer to another institution in which he's contributing. But when it's all said and done, as you stated, Mick, it's all about the W's. And if you go with the process, and the process is you bide your time, do what you have to do, and then you will eventually get the opportunity to shine. That's what it's all about. Rome wasn't created in a day. You're yes, you were a 5-star in high school, but hey, you're at Alabama now. You're at Ohio State now, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
When your time comes, be ready to produce. And the one thing that, as far as when the theme of this year, when it's all said and done, the young men who came in with all these accolades will have the opportunity versus Arkansas, versus Auburn, versus Georgia in the SEC championship game, as well as in the playoffs. You will have this opportunity. So it's just going to be a matter of whether you're willing, but more importantly, able to answer the bell.
Yeah. Look, I agree. And if you don't put your best in now, you end up in the Citrus Bowl, you know what? It is what it is. You want to lose with your best players in there, and I think it's come to that point now where they're going to have to be creative with the running back spot. But if Jalen Milroe is one of their better players that's explosive, then they need to get him in and get him the ball. I can't wait to see what Trey Sanders can do. I mean, I liked watching him run against New Mexico State. Look, I know he didn't really have to worry about much because, I mean, look, it was New Mexico State, right? But I'm curious to see what it's going to be like, coming up Saturday and the next Saturday, because we're going to have to depend on him. And for Bill O'Brien, I mean, it's time to get creative. If they're that close, There's one team ahead of them, Georgia.
And Mick, allow me to say this in parting, and that is, would it be okay? Say, for instance, B-Rob, Trey Sanders, and Jalen Milroe. Give them a total of, say, 40 carries. Would that be sufficient enough as far as to say that you had as far as a positive ground game, as far as 40 carries total, as far as among those three young men?
Oh, yeah. I think so.
Okay. Then also, I just want to know in parting, making this in reference to Bill O'Brien, I just want to know, I've been working on his resume, and I sent it to Indeed.com. So, hopefully as far as at the conclusion of the season, he will be gainfully employed at another Division I school in the capacity of head football coach.
Yeah.
But as always, thank you for indulging me, Mick. You take care and have a good evening. Look forward to speaking with you at the end of the week.
Hey, great to talk to you, Kevin from Dallas. All-American call, man. That was awesome. You're killing me.
All right, thanks,
Indeed. You sending his resume to Indeed. That right there is why I love doing this show. All right, I'm going to keep getting to your calls on a Sunday night as we talk Alabama football. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Mick, hey, what's going on, man? This is David from Nashville, Tennessee.
Hey, what's up? Did you say David or Davis?
David. Yeah, David.
Oh, David. What's up, man?
Yeah, man. It's my first time calling in. I get to listen to the show, but I'm never in a position where I can call. By the way, so glad that I have to follow like Kevin and Jarek and Sean and all these. This is an intimidating show to call into, man.
They did a great job tonight, man. I mean, like
I know all you got. Well, you crush it hosting it, and then you've got all these. Apparently, you have former football analysts calling in to your show. It's amazing. So I'm like, oh, well, great. Now I got to try to live up to that. But yeah, I have some questions that you can either just let these hang out there as rhetorical, or you're free to answer them if you want to, or the listeners can. Question number one is, do you think that Bill O'Brien likes the Alabama offense? I don't mean does he like the players.
No, I know.
I mean, does he literally like the Alabama offense? Like, I think the impression that I get is that he came in wanting to run his offense. Nick Saban, and they talked about this during the game yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Nick Saban said, nope, here's the offense. They gave him this book of all these incredible plays. He picked out about 5 that he liked, said, yeah, I'm just going to use these over and over, and the rest y'all can just keep those. And that's the impression that I get. Now, I'm not a huge football. I don't have I'm kind of like you always say. I don't have the football eye that clearly some of these other callers do, but that's just what I see. Am I way off there?
No, look, I got the same feeling on that when they say, well, when you came to town, here's the offense that I run, and this is the first time I've ever taken a job where I'm running someone else's offense, right? The problem is that the offense that he ran, it just doesn't work anymore in college football, right? I mean, you have to score points. It's an offensive game.
Exactly.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like Alabama's offense this year, and I've put a lot of it on losing Jace McClellan, because when he was there, they scored a ton of points. He was kind of that guy that, you just flip the ball off to. He makes a guy miss. He gets you 10 yards. You get into trouble. He's always there, right? And then you had Brian Robinson running straight ahead. It's time to be creative right now, because of the injuries and because where we are in the season and how things have gone. And I'm waiting for that creativity. And I don't know that Bill O'Brien has it.
Okay, I agree. And I'm glad you said that, because that leads me right into question number 2, which is basically what everybody's kind of been alluding to, which is my thinking is at this point, what do you have to lose by inserting some of these younger players? We've been told over and over, and other callers have said this, that we recruited the number 1 class, not just last year, but of all time. Where are they? What do we have to lose at this point by putting some of these players in? I don't mean take out Jameson Williams and put in Agiye Hall. I'm just saying, but is Slade Bolden, and I think he's awesome. I'm not trying to hate on Slade Bolden, just using him as an example. Is he contributing so much that to try putting in one of the other players, at least for a handful of plays, is going to hurt us? Is J.C. Latham trying to work him into the offensive line? Do we really have that much to lose? Is our offensive line playing so great that just trying J.C. Latham's going to make it that much worse? Like, couldn't we at least try it? That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, look, I'm looking at
it. And if it doesn't work, how is that any worse than the result we're getting already?
No, I agree. I mean, here's the issue, is that there's a roadblock up ahead. Right? Maybe you're not going to run into it with Arkansas. Maybe you're not going to run into it at Auburn, right? But after that, you're running into a huge roadblock. So you better be ready. You better come up with that play like LSU ran against Alabama on that fake punt, because you're going to need that. Alabama's not going to just straight up beat Georgia. Not with the injuries that they're going through, not with the lapses on defense that they've had. They're not. Now, they can beat them, but they're going to need to be creative. And I'm wondering where that creativity is. I mean, because we haven't seen it at all.
100%. And Bryce Young is going to, the way it is right now, Georgia's going to rip through the offensive line like it's rice paper. Bryce Young is going to have the ball in his hands for 2 seconds before he's running for his life. So I don't know. I'm with you. I just think what at this stage of the game, why not try out some different things? And I guess maybe those two things are interrelated. Bill O'Brien just doesn't seem, I'm sure he's a wonderful man, but he just doesn't seem like he really cares that much about the Alabama offensive scheme. I think he just said, yep, these are the plays that I'm comfortable running. I'm just going to go with these. And that's it. And so I don't know what the solution for that is. But other than us losing, and I don't think that's a good solution.
No one likes that solution.
I don't think exactly. But you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Where you go, well, if things get bad enough, we'll change. I'm like, why? And Nick Saban, that's what he's always saying. Why? Don't wait for things to get horrible in order for you to change. Like, if you see it coming, you nailed it on the head. Even if it's not biting you right now, it's coming down the road. It's there. And then I don't want to take up your time in case you got another call, but I'll throw this out there. Should we as fans just start to accept it? Okay, assuming, let's say they don't make a bunch of changes, should we as fans just accept that the offensive line and the secondary, that's just what it is this year? Do we need to just come to grips with that instead of putting ourselves through this mental anguish week after week saying maybe this time it'll be different?
Mm-hmm.
Or should we just say, you know what, they're doing their best, the coaches are doing their best, and this is what we have this year, and let's support them? Do we need to just say this is it and accept it?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, a good question to ask, because it's kind of like Kevin just said, which is the way I feel. I think there's guys that we're going to eventually see probably next year, unless something changes, that could help us right now. And I'm wondering, why not just go ahead, like he said, and play those cards? You've been loyal.
Right.
You've given those guys that have been around the opportunity, but unlike Mac Jones, they haven't taken advantage of it. And it's time to put someone else in there that can dominate the guy on the other side of the ball, that can make a play, an explosive play. We don't need possession receivers right now. We need explosive receivers. We've got to have guys that can block on the offensive line, that are more physical, right? That are able to pass and run block. Running back wise, there's really, can Jalen Milroe come in and help you out? Is there a way to work him in? Maybe you play with two quarterbacks. I saw John Rice Plumlee in the game yesterday at receiver for Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin's found the way to get him in the game, right? He was a quarterback.
Exactly, John. That is a brilliant. My goodness, what a good. So what a good analogy.
I don't think
you've got an incredibly athletic guy who you don't necessarily, quote unquote, need at quarterback right now, but you'd be silly not to keep him on the field because he's just such a crazy good athlete.
Right.
So they found a way to get him on the field.
That's right.
I 100% agree with that.
And I'm telling you that the configuration of the team that they're putting out there right now is not that good. They're good, but they're not that good. They're not Georgia good. They're not national championship good. They're lucky to be 9-1, and they would have even been luckier to be 10-0, right? And they very well could be. But last year, there were first-round picks all over the place. They were at receiver. They were at running back. They were on the offensive line. They were everywhere. And if they weren't first-round picks, there were other NFL players everywhere. Right now, we're in a spot where those guys, some of them are playing and some of them are on the bench. And if it looks like it does now, the next 3 weeks, there's going to be a loss in there, and that's how the season's going to end. And I'm going to say, you know what? Nick Saban did a great job of working with the players that were in the game. That doesn't mean that he did a great job working with the players on the bench. It just means the ones that were in the game, right?
That were in the game, exactly, the ones that you chose to put in the game. And I'm not, and I'm sure that all these kids are giving it everything they've got. So I'm not trying to hate on the players. These are really more questions I have for the coaches. Like again, I just go back to, at some point, other than a football game, what do you have to lose? And if you lose the football game, well, there you go. Then it's game over at that point. But I will throw this last thing out, and then I'll let you go. I appreciate you taking my call. But is it too early to just all of us concentrate as hard as we can on the dream that we get Dan Mullen as our offensive coordinator and Jeremy Pruitt as our defensive coordinator for next year?
Hey, I could see I could see Jeremy coming back. I don't know that Nick Saban would get rid of, would get rid of the guy he's got now. But and as far as Dan Mullen goes, I don't think he's going to get fired. But man, he's just.
I'm half kidding about that. But if Florida loses to Florida State, I don't know. I don't know if Dan Mullen's there next year. And I'm just saying he might need a place to be. We'll take him.
We'll definitely take him if he wants to do it. But don't you feel like he's kind of? Don't you feel like he is just kind of like done with it? That's the feeling that I get.
No, I think, like I said, I'm half kidding. I think he wants to be in the NFL, something bad. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I don't know the guy, but that's the impression that I get.
Yeah. Well,
awesome.
I could see I could definitely see finding someone that might be a little bit more in tune with what Alabama's offense has looked like. I could see Bill O'Brien being a head coach somewhere next year. That's kind of how things have gone for that position at Alabama, and it might not be a bad thing for him to, go back somewhere like the Big Ten, where that style that he wants to play is more viable. Where here, I mean, I think you got to open it up and be more creative. But at the end of the day, they're still 9-1. I mean, so they can, and they're still number 2 in the college football playoff rankings. So they're still. It's not like we're looking at a team that's lost 2 or 3 times, but I think we all know that there's a very thin margin this year in particular games anyway, where they could easily have lost 3 games, and that's when you get into these situations, eventually it catches up to you. Just ask Oklahoma.
Yeah, and I'm taking kind of a cynical tone with all this, but I agree with everybody else. Is that I don't think for a minute that we can't beat Georgia. I'm saying all these things because I think we can. I think I totally agree with I think it was Sean that said, or whoever it was, I think it was Sean that said it, that yeah, the only 2 teams that can beat Alabama and Georgia, I agree, are Alabama and Georgia.
That's right.
I 100% believe that. And I think this team does have the potential. And I think my question is at least a portion of that potential currently sitting on our bench?
Yeah.
And are we maximizing that potential? That's my question.
Right. And I
don't want to keep yawning, but I love the show, and I really enjoy hearing everybody that calls in, and I love hearing you guys host it.
Hey, thanks,
so
David.
Thanks for letting me.
Appreciate it,
letting
man.
me at least chime in.
Yeah, awesome call, man. Thank you. From Music City, David calling in. Look, I saw in the comment section, hey, Mick, have you been in practice? Why are you saying that there's guys that are younger that could come in and play? Look, the bottom line is history, okay? You go out and you get 5-star players and you get 4-star players. You're bringing in the best of the best from around prep sports. The track record is the guys that get to their junior and senior year and stick around aren't good enough to go to the NFL, or they'd go. Okay, then the guys that are playing that are freshmen and sophomore, they're 4 and 5 stars. That's telling me that there's enough of those guys where they're going to step in and eventually be good, if not great. And in most other programs, they would already be on the field. At Alabama, it's just not the case. You the process, you wait your turn. And I appreciate Nick Saban's loyalty, but I guarantee you that there's 1st and 2nd round picks in the NFL sitting on that bench right now. So I don't have to go to practice and sit there and watch them every day to know that the talent is there. And the bottom line is that talent trumps experience, and maybe not right away, but eventually it will. And the only way that you're going to get experience is that you get put in the football game. So it's a tough job that Nick Saban has, where he's got to balance that. And I wouldn't want that job. I would not want that job. I wouldn't, because you're trying to convince guys to stick around and play. And you've got to convince other guys that come in with all this talent that they have to wait their turn. But we're in a situation now where I feel like I disagree with Kevin from Dallas. Put the best players in and roll with it, because you're this close to winning another national championship. And with the way that this offensive line in particular is configured, and now with the injuries at running back, and the wide receiver spot has been inconsistent other than 2 guys, it's time to start seeing what you have and letting those guys get in and make a difference. I think we're going to be surprised. Look at Najee Harris's story. He was going to transfer. The national championship game comes, Alabama's getting whooped. He gets to come in the game, and all of a sudden he makes a big impact. He could have been doing that half of the season, maybe. I just think that talent, just that I've been in sports, in all kind of sports, not just around football, but that talent is going to trump experience. You got to have experience too. That's the bottom line, and I'm not talking about lack of attitude or work ethic. I'm talking about talent trumps experience. And the more talent you put on the football field, the more chance that you're going to have to win. And that's how Nick Saban has won all of his national championships, because he's got more talent than everybody else. He did it at LSU and he's done it at Alabama. There are waves of guys that are talented to get in there and play. And so that's kind of my point on this. But I'm going to tell you this too. I love the fact that you guys are in the comments right now and you are digging in and debating it. This has been one of the best call-in shows that I've ever been on tonight. And even if we disagree on a few things, I love the fact that you guys are getting after it, and just ask you to be respectful of each other's opinions, just like I am with yours. I'll do a couple more calls, definitely overtime tonight, but because you've made it so much fun and the callers have been so good, I got to keep on going. Who's this and where you calling from?
What's up with you, man? This is Jay from Sheffield.
Hey, what's up, Jay? Thanks for holding on so long and being part of our show.
Oh, yeah, I love the time. I'm going to hold on. But, man, I just feel like coordinator creativity, that's what we need right now, because we ain't seen no deep shots for real from Bill O'Brien. We ain't seen no creative blitzes or none of that. It's like they just playing plain football or something. We need some creativity out of the people that's in charge right now.
I agree. I mean, instead of going in there like you're the champ, go in there like you're the guy trying to beat the champ.
Yeah, man. I hate hearing this Georgia talk. I've been tired all my life, 28 years, man. Them folks is look. They don't want that problem. Yeah, you look good right now, but when I come in the room, you shut your mouth and you shut up because you know who Big Dog is. That's how we gonna always look at Georgia. So y'all, all my Bama fans, man, we got to quit worrying about that because that ain't no problem.
Got to get there first, though. You know, on the other hand, too, I mean, like you can't look past Arkansas, and as much as I hate to say it, you can't look past Auburn when you're playing at their place.
Oh no, that's really to me the biggest test we got is that Auburn game. And finally waking up against Georgia and the coordinators act because we got all this talent. It's the reason why you came out of high school a 5-4 star.
Right.
But if somebody ain't calling the plays or putting you in the play to make the position or make the play, then what good am I? You know what I'm saying? Like Bill O'Brien, he got to go, man. It's time. It's been time for him to go.
I got to say this. And I have a lot of respect for what Bill O'Brien did taking over at Penn State and how good he was for that program at the time when he was there. Daniel Moore sent me a movie, the guy that does the pictures, the artist, about Bill O'Brien. And Bill O'Brien's great. I mean, as a person, he's a fantastic person, and he's a great coach too. But unfortunately, the style that Alabama plays with now just doesn't match the style that he normally coaches. And he's either got to figure it out, or they, might be good for him to go run his own program and find someone else that can run that style. I agree.
Is he a football mind though? Because I mean, he never, other than that 1 year with Brady, he ain't did nothing. Like he had no explosive offense. You made Deshaun Watson an average quarterback. Like is Bill O'Brien really that guy? Because we coming from Lane Kiffin, Steve Sarkisian, then Bill O'Brien. It's like, dude, you never had a top five. You never had a top five offense in the league. So what you wasn't a top offense at Penn State. Yeah, your story sounds good, but we talk about winning. You know what I'm saying? You're not used to that. I mean, I don't know. I guess I just don't like Bill O'Brien, but man, that guy is horrible. Like, he's a horrible coordinator. Run the ball.
Run the ball inside the 5, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure if you ask B-Rob, hey, man, I'm finna give you the ball 30 times these next 3 to 5 games we got. Can you handle that? You think that man ain't finna beat on his chest and say, Coach, give it to me 50 times?
It's definitely a different look. The way that Alabama used to play offense before Lane Kiffin and Loxley, and then Sark came in, and I mean, he was dialed in. as the offensive coordinator. You know, he went to the NFL and that didn't work out. And when he came back, he was dialed in, focused. You know what? College is going to be my thing. And Bill O'Brien, I mean, like right now, the offense is definitely, you know, Kyle kind of stoked those flames at the beginning of the show. And I mean, I think we're all kind of in that same spot where we're waiting to see some creativity here.
I want to see it out the defense too. Right now we know we got Will Anderson and Dallas Turner coming on. There's no reason why we shouldn't see a package with those two guys and Drew Sanders just floating around or being like a late blitzing linebacker or something. I mean, we got to put our athletes on the field in position. Pete Golden, he got to come on with his stuff too, because Georgia, they look good, but they line up the middle, ain't all that. And if we got the cornerbacks to shut down their receivers, they ain't really got no receiver. Quarterback can't put it where he needs to put it. So if we can get pressure right up the middle where we need to, ball game.
Yeah. And how about that guy on the screen right there, Phil Mathis? I mean, he's been, you know what? I haven't given him his props on here enough. He's been coming on strong too. You know, Will Anderson Jr. is as good of a defensive player as Alabama's had in a long time. And we've had some great ones, but you know, he's starting to get some other guys involved. And if Alabama gets to that Georgia game, and I think they're going to, I mean, obviously they just got to win one of the next two. I think they'll win the next two. To beat Georgia, it's going to take a ferocious pass rush. I think Alabama's defense is going to have to dominate Georgia's offense. I think it'll be like basically Alabama dishing out some of Georgia's own medicine to them. I think that would be the way to get it done. And it's going to take guys like Anderson and Mathis to do it.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to let you go, but to my Tide fans, just remember, when we walk around that corner, everybody stop and look and say, there go Big Dog. Y'all shut up. Here go the Big Dogs.
Hey, great to hear from you, Jay.
Good to hear from you, man.
Give that little guy a hug for me, all right?
Oh, man, I'm sorry. He the guy that he woke up.
No, man. I got one myself, man. I know how that is. That's he's just saying the same thing. What is it a boy or a girl?
He a boy.
A little boy.
He turned 1 year old on December 7th.
Okay,
so he got a birthday coming.
He's coming up. Yeah. What he's saying, and I hear him, he's saying that Alabama needs to bring on some of those young guys, get them in the game, get that offensive line straight, and then start running that football because they're going to need that running attack to beat Georgia.
Oh, yeah. What have you heard anything out of Monkey, a good one?
Nothing.
He was a beast up the middle in the A-Day game.
Yeah. That's a question I could ask, but I have not heard anything.
Yeah, man, we got to go deeper, man.
I totally agree. I just think it's time. You know, it's time to pull any card that you have. You might as well play it now.
Oh yeah, even if it's, hey man, go in there and give me a hard 6 plays this game, man. I just give it to him.
Yeah. Yep. I agree with that. Well, all right, Jay. Thank you, man.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for hanging on and thanks for calling in. All right, going right back to the phones, and we'll do one more tonight. Guys, like and subscribe as you hang out with us here on the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Who's this and where you calling from?
Yo, it's Terrence from Lufkin, Texas. Giving a call, one of Bama's biggest fans. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide.
Man, just calling to say our loyalty will be our Achilles heel. In the sense of, man, BJ Dale is not the one to be starting the nose tackle. It's clearly obvious that it needs to be Tim Smith. I don't know. I mean, Coach Saban's loyalty is loyal to a fault, if I can say. It's beginning to be very unreal, and even the play of Henry To'oTo'o, him coming in and play the Mike linebacker position, we can arguably say that he really hadn't, just took the reins of Mike linebacker. We don't have that Reuben Foster
Reggie Ragg,
Right.
you know, Sean Deion Hamilton. We hadn't had that in a while. Phil Method is showing his butt. I feel like, you know, and LeBron Ray got in playing pretty good ball. But DJ Dale should be a reserve player. You know, he's a good player, nothing against DJ Dale. He's just more reserve player. If you can think about it, he really wasn't a 4-star. He was a 3-star, you know. I mean, but coming in, manning that nose tackle after, you know, Quinnen Williams and Christian Barmore and you know, you know, the guys of that nature, Jonathan Allen, all those, Darren Payne, like those are huge shoes to fill when it comes to, you know, honing in on that D line. Put in Moody at linebacker. I want to see what he can do as a play caller. You know, who's to say? Like, man, he may give us that nudge that, you know, that we're missing. You know, because like Henry Tortora just hadn't been. It's like you be a Mike. I played Mike linebacker at Riverside High School in Abilene, Mississippi. You know, shout out to the Riverside Bulldogs. You have to be vocal. You are the attitude. The Mike linebacker is the person that, hey man, if you the middle linebacker, you the baddest mofo, you know, on the defensive side.
Right.
If you're the Mike for a reason. You know, and you know, Henry is a, you know, heck of an athlete. Give him all the praise, but him manning that position, I hadn't seen that this year. Slay Bowden, good guy, good fella, you know. But why not Thayou Jones-Bell? This man is active, fast, physical, can catch. Nothing. He's way faster. Put him in, let him see what he can do. I understand J-Mo, you know, he's our number one receiver right now. And like I said, I'm one of Bama's biggest fans. So I'm not going to hold my tongue when it comes to certain things. You know, man, when they're doing that drop balls, man, hey, get out. Come on, man. Come on, Jai Hall. Come on, Corey Brooks. Come on, Trayshawn Holden. Dropping balls? Come on, man.
Yeah.
We had Judy Brooks, Devontae
I know.
Jalen Waddle. How often did you see those guys drop balls?
Never.
Or scared to contest for balls? Even at the tight end spot, you give all the props to Campbell too, because you're coming in and playing weak side linebacker to the tight end. Hey, you got to learn that spot. So I understand him. But Jaleel, he hadn't lived up to the hype. You know, he went off last year, and this year he's just Jaleel. You know, it's like when you guys are gonna man to play for Bama used to mean something to certain people. If you play for Bama, if you could play for Bama and make it through spring practice and you know, just be on the team when they did win championships, hey, you could go into the NFL is easy.
Yeah.
You hear Ryan Anderson say it all the time, man, the NFL is easy. They don't never do what we do in practice. You know, so it's like when those guys are gonna step up and actually just be like, okay, well look, I'm gonna play ball. You know, we hadn't had that style of play. Like you said, Montel Goodwine, where's he at?
Yeah.
Lathan, Brockemeyer, man, Chris Owen doesn't need to be playing tackle. He's 6'2", 6'3", 298, playing right tackle. No. Our loyalty is hurting us to an extent. Like, I'm like, okay, where? You know, what made Kirby Smart an excellent D coordinator? He knew exactly when to sub in and out. What made Jeremy Pruitt an excellent D coordinator? He knew exactly when, even if he blitzed all the time. Hey, he was coming. I mean, I feel like Pete Golden is an excellent strategizer and teacher of the game, but actually being a DC playing at the highest level, that's a whole different ballgame when you come for Bama. You know, I mean, Freddie Roach, you coached there. I love Freddie Roach. You know?
Yeah, I remember when Freddie played.
We need the Bo Davis back. The people there. Did you see that? The way he spoke to Texas. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we're missing.
Yeah, right. Texas, well, we had Bo. Remember that Bo was here and Bo didn't make it. You know, and you got to fight for everything you got.
He knows what it takes.
Yep.
He knows what it takes.
Yep.
You know, so it's like Texas people are so butthurt because, oh my God, he said this to the players. Man, it's football. That's what they do in football. That's how you get talked to in football. You know,
I mean, can't really just say what my football coach used to tell us, you know, but hey, you tell us, hey, take your you-know-what out and be a freaking man.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, hey, it's football. Basketball is a contact sport. Football is a collision sport. Coach Jeff Horn always told us that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Hey, who gonna show up at the time? Yeah, it's gonna be hot. You're gonna be tired. There's gonna be somebody wailing on you, but who's gonna give in first? You know, and I hadn't just seen any dominant, you know, like big field matches, Byron Young. Man, I'm loving those guys. Tim Smith. Man, we need to get Jameer Burrows in it because as you can see when he did get in, man, hey, those guys, man, actually pairing them two together, Tim Smith and Jameer Burrows, when they did play together long, it was like, okay, man, now we looking like something. I hadn't seen that since. Like, okay, it's like, okay, where it go? Where it go? You know, even with the cornerback play, we got a 6'2", 6'3" corner. Was the number one JUCO. You know, hey, I mean, let's see can we get some people back there. What about Story? You know, let's see can we get some people back there. Like, now, Texas A&M got a 6'3", you know, safety. I mean, why we can't experiment with it? I mean, not comparing, you know, to Texas A&M or whatever.
Right.
But, and I hate to just say, Georgia looks more Bama than Bama.
Well, right now they look. But any other year, though, Georgia's offense would cost them. It's just that no one has the offense to be able to challenge Georgia, who lacks they have issues in the secondary, but no one can get to them because the pass rush is just so tough to stop. That's it. Their defensive line is a beast, and to beat them, you got to be able to block them and pass on them, which we saw Tennessee do it for a little bit, but they couldn't sustain it. Those drops you were talking about, they're not going to be able to win if they drop the ball. Alabama, when they get to that game, if they get to the game, they're going to have
Georgia's gonna make you pay.
Yeah, they'll make you pay. So that's why I'm saying it's like you know, like Kevin from Dallas, Georgia said, you know, don't leave your cards in your hand. Play the cards because now is go time. You know, but Nick Saban's always hesitant to do that. You know, when Jalen Hurts was quarterback and Tua was blowing the defense away in practice every day, we heard before the Clemson game that they were going to make the move. I heard from a great source that was going to happen. But Alabama dominated the game, and it didn't happen. It took halftime of the Georgia game for them to make that move. You know, he's very hesitant to do that. He's a loyal guy. He's the best that's ever done it. I'm not questioning that. But what I am saying is that this season and what this team can accomplish is being hampered by some of the upperclassmen that are hardworking, good guys that just aren't as good of football players talent-wise as the guys that are behind them. Is that fair?
Right. It's totally fair. And this is something that I can honestly say. I had a problem with it when it was occurring, and I still have a problem with it as of now. This name, image, likeness, bull crap has these boys playing so gingerly and soft because you feel like you're entitled to something.
Yeah.
You're not entitled to anything. These people are getting – man, what about the people that came in before you that had to struggle to get – that's all they had for school to pay for school.
Right.
You getting paid to go to school. So I need to pay you $1 million for not touching the field?
Right. Like Spencer Rattler? Like Spencer Rattler.
And then look at his production.
I know.
Look at the production.
He's got like two cars from the two trucks from one of the dealerships out there, a car and a truck and all this stuff. I don't know, man. You know what? That's a whole nother show talking about the name, image, and likeness stuff. I mean, we could sit here and grind on that we've been on for 2 hours. We could grind on that for another 2.
You're right.
I'm torn.
I'm not gonna hop on. I'm gonna say a few more things, then I'm gonna let you go.
Okay.
Man, and like I said, I'm the biggest Bama fan. I feel like every time our freaking players get on the field with their mouthpiece flopping off their helmet, flaggers. Maybe coach will get on their butt like this, dude. Man, my D coordinator when I played ball, hey, you want your dinner work? So you guys are too fly to put it in your mouthpiece?
Mm-hmm.
Since when? what did you get hit in your mouth? You chip a tooth and you swallow your tooth. Hey, you don't got the mouthpiece in there to prevent that. Like, what's going on with the players? There's too many players I feel like they're entitled to do anything, and now they're playing at bare minimum because, like I said, they feel like they're entitled. No, you have to earn it. Nothing is given to you.
Yeah.
Go out there and earn it. Bama, this is not Bama. I don't see Bill O'Brien and the offensive line coach being there next year. The O-line is playing so lackluster. I'm Marone. I don't know how. You know, I don't know what your credentials are as far as, but no, no, not it. Bill O'Brien, if you were going to pick 3 plays just to run out, let's not remember the Titans. You know, you can't run 6 plays to be like Novocaine. This is Bama. Come on now. No, we have to do better on both sides of the ball. Man, if we can get Tim Smith, Big Five Matthews, Byron Young, Brian Ray, and all of our edge rushers in, and everybody substitute in and out adequately, keeping everybody fresh, we can be dominant. We don't sub in and out enough on the D line, so it's like man, and like I said, man, Dale, I love you. You're a good player, but he need to be reserved. He don't get a push at all.
Right.
He don't get a push at all. So, hey, but that's my time. You know, that's all I want to say. You know, I'm always calling, man. Hey, T-Rich, Roll Tide, Bama, fan for life. I just had my little boy, and I feel like he's gonna be the next Bama great linebacker.
How old is he?
Roll Tide.
Hey, Roll Tide, man.
He's 6 weeks old.
6 weeks.
6 weeks
Congratulations, Dad. That's awesome, man.
Thank you, sir.
That is awesome.
Roll Tide, you guys have a blessed night.
Yeah, Roll Tide. Yeah, I was out there today playing a little ball with my guy, and man, I totally get it. So that's what being a dad's all about. You got to get him to the Crimson Tide. Look, guys, I appreciate all of you. This is about an hour longer than I normally do, but you made this show great. Sorry to the people that I didn't get to tonight, but we will do it again next Saturday after the game, and then next Sunday night. You guys killed it, man. You killed it. Comment section, you guys were great as well. You kept the fire going all night. This was one of your best shows. Great show to everybody involved. Special thanks to Kyle for jumping on at the beginning of the show, but most importantly to you guys for being a part of the Bama Insider YouTube channel. Hey, don't forget, we got a great week. We'll hear from Nick Saban, all the press conferences tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, Monday Night Quarterback. Tuesday, we will have Andrew Bone jumping on with his recruiting show, him and Trey Yanity. Kyle and I will be back to break down the college football playoff rankings. Wednesday, Kyle and Trey will do the score predictions. So you guys make sure you get your scores in for that. Friday night, if you're in Tuscaloosa, please come by and say Roll Tide to me. We will record our radio show that airs on Saturday, Friday night at 6 o'clock at Innisfree in Tuscaloosa to get you ready for the Arkansas game. And there's a ton more going on as well throughout the week on the channel. So I'm Mick Gillispie again, thanking you guys for being a part of our show tonight. Really, really love you guys and appreciate you. And this was a lot of fun. So Roll Tide. We'll talk to you tomorrow.